So, in no particular order, please welcome to the stage Matthew Stepanic, Laura Wilson, and Francesca Wilson. Matthew, could you go here? And Laura Wilson, if you could go there. And Francesca Wilson over there. Marvellous, thank you. Now, the first thing I'd like to do is complain that two of you have chosen to have the same surname, which makes my job really, really difficult. I'm going to ask you in a moment just to give us your story, essentially. How did you get into this job and kind of why and what are you doing? Before that, I think if we're really lucky, we may have yet another piece of video which might do some of your work for you. Let's just see.
In the future, I'm excited to see the new and exciting changes that will affect the physical object of the magazine and how it will be reimagined. I look forward to seeing digital components and social media interact with our magazines in new ways and enliven the actual experience of reading it.
As a millennial working in the magazine media industry today, it might be tempting to say that it's the more social and digital developments that are most poignant. What's exciting is that as our consumers' interaction with our brands becomes more frequent and dynamic, our content and brand positioning becomes more important than ever, and this seems to open up a world of possibilities when it comes to brand extensions and events.
Partnerships with digital platforms will definitely be hugely imperative in the future. I think from the latest CMS content management platform to the shiniest new thing in social media, partnerships will be key. Investing and partnering with these different digital platforms are going to be how we become successful in the future, and we're all going to have to be, very nimble and flexible when we grow into these unknown and very exciting spaces.
So a glimpse there of all of you in your home environments, if you like. That's kind of where you are. That's where you do what you do. But just give us a flavour of, without the whole life history thing, because that might be a bit long for this audience, but give us a sense of why you chose magazine media and kind of your story to date. And Matthew, can I start with you? The obvious question being Glass Buffalo, where did that title come from? But we'll save that for a bit.
Okay, we will save that. I just have to say, Francesca, I'm really impressed by your video. I just feel like I haven't seen those yet. But as you could kind of see from mine, I'm surrounded by books, and the reason I wanted to go into magazine media is because I love stories, and I was really attracted to the way that magazines were able to share and tell stories and connect with readers on that level. And so I had gone into the University of Alberta to do an English degree, and I was kind of, finishing up my degree, and at that point where like most people with arts degrees are concerned about what future they have or what they can actually do with that. And I was in a creative writing class where our prof encouraged us to put together a magazine of our writing. And so after I had this fun experience of like publishing this magazine, I took the designer side and I asked him if he was interested in continuing with me to publish and promote other emerging writers at the university. And our goal was just to kind of create a emerging community of writers in Edmonton, Alberta, which is in Canada here, for those that don't know. And I don't know if you want to hear a little bit about what I do with the
I'd love
magazine
to,
right
yeah,
now.
absolutely.
Yeah. So with Glass Buffalo, I take the title of editor because it's just simpler, but I kind of do everything except design the magazine because I have no artistic talent. So I'll work with writers to edit and kind of create content and edit their poems and stories and just create a theme for the issue. I contact advertisers. I work with them to make sure they're happy and like connected with what our magazine's goal is and that it aligns with their values. And I plan events. I'll host those events, work with the students to kind of create a theme, partner with different literary festivals, run the social media. We have Twitter, Facebook, which I'm bad at. And basically just kind of everything.
So it would be shorter to give us a list of what you don't do.
So was design the magazine. I started with that and then I wanted to bore you.
Yeah, no, that's great. So effectively it's an entrepreneurial, it's a startup that came out of the university experience and is growing into a publishing experience.
Yes.
So you've had quite a nice kind of segue from sort of academia into commercial media.
Yes, and it's been good too. And then I also, during the day, I work for Tanner Young Publishing based in Edmonton and work on like Where Edmonton, the Edmonton Travel Guide, and just a bunch of tourism magazines and producing content for them. So it's been good to get different experience.
So just rewind a bit, that's during the day?
During the day,
So all the other jobs you do are kind of...
During at night and then sometimes like break time. Or
time for sleep, or is that not really a priority?
No, I'm not a
big
sleeper.
on sleep.
Yeah, I might be a vampire. Okay. It hasn't been confirmed or denied.
That makes absolute sense. Laura, Tell us how you got into magazines and just a little bit about what you do now.
Sure. So actually, I started out at Harper's Bazaar right out of college, which was very exciting, obviously, for a 21-year-old girl to have their first job at Harper's Bazaar magazine was a really big, very exciting moment for me. And I started there in marketing. Shortly thereafter, I went to an advertising agency where we focused on beauty, fashion, a little bit of other things here and there, where I got sort of a full 360 view of what campaigns are like and how campaigns are designed. And that was really my sort of first moment of love with advertising. I love campaigns, I love how they're built, I love the influence that it has on culture and sort of how marketing and campaigning can really shift focus and culture in a major way. Then I came back to Hearst. I've been at Town & Country now for almost 3 years. The majority of my time there has been Associate Director of Marketing, and I actually just switched over onto the sales team, so kind of getting another angle, another view of what the publishing side is like. And for a young person to go from a brand like Harper's Bazaar, then to an advertising agency, and then to a brand like Town & Country, it's been a very interesting experience. Town & Country is the oldest continually published magazine in America, and so we have been, for the last 3 years, under new leadership and going through a big transformation. And so it's been very exciting and shifting in terms of balancing print media and events and experiential and changing the perception of the brand between generations as well has been a big focus for us. So on the marketing side, over the last couple of years, we've been really trying to target our next generations in a big way. Also, the men's audience has been a big target for us, and really focusing on programs and experiential elements that really can kind of bring the focus of the older generations and the newer generations together. Philanthropy being a really great example of that, and I'll get to that a little bit more later. So.
Okay, that's a lot, again, an awful lot to cram into a few years. I mean, that's a very rapid career move there. And Francesca, just give us your story to date.
Okay, so much as Matthew, I have a degree in English from the University of Sussex. Always loved literature and magazines, obviously. And I, post-university, kind of looking into horizon, like what can I do with my degree? How can I harness this love of writing, but I'm also very creative? How can I channel this? I did a year's editorial internship for Wallpaper magazine, which was IPC, it's now Time Inc. UK. And I actually took a sidestep after that. For a while I was freelance. I did editorial sort of editing of arts experience records and web copy for a cultural consultancy, among other things. And then I went to work in a theatre, kind of more in the marketing side of things. My other love of art, so I really learned there sort of a lot about marketing to sort of a product, to a specific audience, email marketing, direct marketing, etc. But I really felt that pull to go back into the magazine world. I did some work experience for Country Living magazine at Hearst, and then shortly after took a role on the events team there, which was obviously slightly sideways again from sort of editorial, but obviously pulling into the marketing that I've been doing at the theatre. So I was there for 2 years. I worked on Good Housekeeping, Country Living, Prima and House Beautiful brands, and I just learnt a hell of a lot there, really. Amazing brands, quite different to what I work on now, but reader events and exhibitions, branded sort of stands at exhibitions, awards, and when a role at Immediate Media came up, working on marketing and events, I thought, right, this is for me. This is where I'm going, definitely. Hadn't really looked back, to be honest. So I don't know if anybody heard Tom Bureau's speech, but Immediate Media is the special interest content platform company. All of its brands are about people's passions and provide kind of a service. And the brands I work on are parenting and weddings. I work across 3 different brands. I work on all their events, so again, trade shows, B2C events,
Awards is a big part of what I do. So each of those 3 brands, Junior, which is a high-end parenting website for the Vogue of parenting brands, and Prima Baby, which is a more practical parenting Bible, really, every 4 weeks. So that's for mums and dads, practical advice about, this new stage in people's lives, obviously being parent.
So you've had this journey that's taken you into, again, like all of you, there's a lot of career movement. And again, it's not unusual, but are any of you looking, and if any of your existing employers are in the audience, this is now officially a no-fire zone. You can say anything you like and it has no consequences. When you came into the media business, did you see yourselves as coming into a career-long thing, like you join a company and then you rise through that business until, in the end, you come out as CEO? And I'm guessing clearly not, given all of your backgrounds. I mean, particularly, you've started up yourself and you're also employed. Where do you see your career path going?
That's a really good question, and I wish I had considered it more before. I kind of roll with the opportunities that come to me. So the companies that I've worked for before, I used to work at June Warren Nichols Energy Group in Canada. It's like owned by Glacier Media, and I was just a copy editor and proofreader there, which I'm very skilled at. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity for career growth in that company. So when the position opened up at Tanner Young Publishing for an assistant editor role, I moved towards there. And I've kind of noticed a lot with media jobs nowadays, you have to look around and shop around to different companies because most of the people that are in the higher up positions are happy there, or they might not be leaving anytime soon.
So you're expecting a career of fairly constant movement is something you're expecting. And I'm guessing the experience is pretty much the same, given what you've told us about what you've done to date.
Right. So for me, I didn't expect this coming into this industry, actually, and it kind of seemed to be the norm the more I looked around. But I mean, at this point, I've been at Town & Country, as I said, almost 3 years, and the pace at which I feel people our age are growing in their roles is quite quick. And that's due to opportunity, obviously, and the shift in everything we're focusing on. We're also taking on a lot more, and we have a lot of targets in front of us, and so the growth is insanely quick. Everyone around you is moving around very quickly and jumping at opportunity because there is so much to tackle. And so I think, if you have the opportunity to move around at a brand, that's very rare, and that's a fabulous opportunity, and you should do that. But I do think that people are really trying to, at least young people, get their hands on as much as possible, just to have that breadth of experience and be able to set themselves up for the next move.
And Francesca, I'm guessing again from your experience, it's not a conveyor belt anymore. It's more of your own volition, moving from role to role to build up the experience you want.
Yeah, I think so. I think, certainly in my experience, it's about being really passionate about the brand, or have integrity for what you're doing at the time, and learning from each of those things. And I think there's a lot to be gained sort of early in your career, certainly from kind of moving around a bit and understanding how different businesses work. I mean, certainly my time in working in the arts has helped my career in magazines and in media. And I'm not saying that that's what one wants to do forever, but it's certainly it does make you hungry for kind of for growth, to move up, to move.
For
yeah,
movement,
absolutely.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on from the dangerous territory of your specific career plans, which have all sorts of problems with your existing employers, let's look more generally. We've had a lot in the conference in the past few days about how media consumption has changed irrevocably, how essentially the buying of physical print media is pretty much off the agenda for people below a certain age threshold. And of course we can't generalise, it can't be true that everybody under 30 behaves in a particular way, but let's take you as 3 sort of examples. Aside from your own titles, which of course you religiously read all the time without fail, more generally, are you consumers of printed media at all, or is your media consumption short form, electronic, digital?
For myself, when I'm looking for news or any kind of like journalism to read, I'm actually a very big fan of print. I subscribe to a bunch of different Canadian magazines, The Walrus, Alberta Views, 18 Bridges, and then tons of other literary magazines because I like to see what else is going on in the literary landscape in Canada. And I'm a print addict. My phone is more for those like little breaks when I just want to read a couple of tweets that are a joke, but I don't see
It's not your primary consumption.
It's not my primary
medium.
consumption, yeah.
Okay, and Laura, for you?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. You know, in the morning I read the news, the skim, I get the download, I get the brief version. Magazines, I'm a loyal print magazine reader, maybe because that's the industry that I'm in, but I do love that. And I'm seeing sort of this turn right now too, where you know, across all ages, print is becoming a luxury in a lot of ways again, because people are sort of allergic to being on their device all the time. And I feel myself being a part of that. Books, I read paper books. I don't have a Kindle. It's time for leisure for me. And so I do read, like Matthew said, the news and quick bites, check Twitter for updates, WWD, those kinds of things on my phone. But otherwise, I am still quite involved with print. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a bit of a mixture for me, actually. I think in considering my role in coming to this conference, I've actually kind of had to assess. Actually, I do spend quite a lot of time on my mobile phone, but I do love print. So I like to think I'm somewhere in between. I still buy magazines. I still subscribe to magazines. You know, if there's a free one going in the office, I'm straight to grab it off the newsstand. But I think it's different types of media that I consume differently. I don't think I buy as many kind of women's interest magazines as maybe I once would have. I think I get a lot of that information from using my phone and using platforms. But I think there are certain types where I still, you know, or certain times I just want to grab my, you know, I don't want to be on my phone. I don't want to be distracted by anything else. I just want to immerse myself in this print product. So I think a bit of both, but probably more mobile, more digital than I realized before I started to
I
look
suspect this
deeply
digital
into
question
it.
is a bit like everyone who's ever asked by their doctor how much they drink. The doctor automatically doubles
One
the figure
unit.
they give them, because it's just, we all spend more time on these devices than we'd like to admit that we do, not confined to any particular group. So looking at the media environment you've entered it with certain expectations. You clearly had a fair idea of what it was going to be, because it takes a lot of, it's a struggle to enter. I mean, it's, you know, whether you enter it through setting up on your own, or whether you enter it through an application process or repeated sort of networking to get in. You must have wanted to be there. Is it what you expected? And if it isn't, how is it different? And can we start with you, Francesca?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly most of the people I work with have a hunger to be in this industry. And certainly for me, you know, it took me a while to get in and to get into the right place, actually. You know, I got straight into a role after university, pretty much around recession time. So, you know, maybe the route that I might have ideally taken in wasn't there. But, you know, I've got there in the end, and I'm really happy with where I am. And I think.
And it was, but the industry you came into is the industry you expected.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess you don't. Yeah, you have certain preconceptions about what it's going to be like. You know, it's not like Devil Wears Prada. It's much nicer than that. It's a great industry to be part of. It's you know, ever evolving. It's exciting, and you know, that's the brands and manifestations of that. You know, that's what you do expect, and it is like that. Yeah.
And Laura, now you are in a slightly more Devil Wears Prada environment, but did you find that it was exactly what you expected? Was it very different? Because you've had the agency experience too.
Right. So I don't think anything's exactly as you expect when you go into your first role in your career, but I did jump around a bit at the beginning. I think it says a lot that I've been at Town & Country now for 3 years. I love the team, which is the most important thing, I think, when you're looking to go anywhere. I think I have a very lean and smart team that is very dedicated to the brand. And to, you know, as I said before, we've been kind of part of a revitalization of a legacy brand. And so when you are invested on that level, I think you look for every opportunity to stay, which has been my experience. And so shifts here and there have occurred, but in terms of environment, I've been wildly pleasantly surprised. I have an amazingly collaborative team, both on the advertising and editorial side of the magazine, and great leadership that's been really strong. And so I'm very content where I am, and I think you would be surprised at how collaborative and anti-Devil Wears Prada it can be. Yeah.
Well, I'm relieved to hear it.
Yeah.
And Matthew, in the few moments when you're not working in your day, do you reflect on, is it what you expected? Is the experience of working in magazine media and indeed publishing? Is it what you expected?
There's no time for reflection, but it is in that way that I had pictured it in an editor role. You know, you spend some time reading things, editing, tidying up, like it's this alone time where, you know, you're just perfecting content. And that was kind of the dream role, and then actually, you know, it's still very rewarding to see that magazine published with all the words in it and like that you're sharing these stories. But there's a lot more that you need to do to get to that point that I wasn't expecting. It's all the multitasking and the marketing and the social media aspects. So in both of my roles, like at Tanner Young and at Glass Buffalo, there's a lot of different things that I didn't think I would have to do as an editor or keep track of. And just to understand, so that's the unexpected part, but then it's also rewarding to learn all these different things.
And I suspect that's an experience that's shared across media and isn't confined to people new to it. All editors are now finding that the days of being able to sit back and reflect on some copy are kind of gone.
Yes.
You know, it's a much faster paced world
and it's
now.
something that we've been talking about actually over the last few days, just how all of our roles are so multifaceted and that you are trying your hand at a bit of everything, no matter which sort of area you're in. It's really not that siloed anymore. You have to understand how every other department's running to really
And that's a
understand
really
your
important
brand.
point, isn't it? You really have got to have that engagement all around
Absolutely.
rather than just saying, I do this and just leave me alone to get on with what I do.
And you
It's
have
not
to work with
possible
your
anymore.
teams, you know.
No, absolutely. So I'm going to ask in a moment a sort of final question, which would be, you've been here for the conference. I'd just like to ask you what it is that you'll take away from the conference, the thing that you would take away and say, well, that was great. It could even be this discussion, who knows, but somehow I doubt it. But anything else that you've seen that you think, well, okay, I'd be, you know, that was interesting for me. I'd love to hear it. Just before we go to that point, do we have any questions from the floor for our panel of millennials? You can raise your hand if you like. Don't be embarrassed. All you have to do is have the ability to catch. So can we see? And already someone's caught the ball. Marvellous.
Hi, I'm Shelley Ambrose from the Walrus, and so thank you so much for subscribing. That means a lot to me. I would like to ask the question that's on the screen. What should we do to engage the consumers of the future? Because they are our young rising stars. So what are you going to do? What can we do to engage the new yous?
Okay, good question, thank you. The most important thing that I noticed with Glass Buffalo is the idea of the magazine as a community builder. And so the way that I try to interact with our readers and our writers is through events and through hosting things where people can connect and engage with our readers, because I find most of the people that read the magazine are interested in writing and how to actually become a writer. And so they want to go to these events and talk to these writers and learn about their processes and kind of connect with that. So that's something that we try to build on and like actually create a physical space in the community for people to come and listen to our writers.
Yeah, I agree actually. So we've put a lot of energy and focus into experiential as well. We do a big summit dedicated to philanthropy every year, and that has stemmed from this 50 franchise that Town & Country launched, and it focuses on these pillars of the brand that can, you know, resonate across generations. And so we focus on bachelors and it girls and philanthropy and families, working for very obvious reasons. But philanthropy, we do a summit, and that is a time where we can bring together readers from many generations, and it's something that everybody cares about. You know, you're learning, you're giving back, you are hearing the voices of you know, legendary people who are making an impact in the charitable world, and you're also inspiring the next generation to catch on and get excited about what we've been excited about forever. And so I think that programmatic is very important. I think social media and digital and any kind of outreach, email, social, posts, promotion, anything, we have to be very, very careful to not oversaturate that because the content, as everyone has reiterated, is precious. And you know, maintaining the brand integrity is number one to me. And then from there, you have to kind of strategize what's reaching the next generation the best way. Is it through experiential? Social won't always be the answer, I don't think. I think we have to still treasure and value the brand that's at the core of everyone's energy and work.
Makes sense. Francesca?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously in an events background, I totally on board with the experiential events. You know, I think people of our generation, I think there's a big thing about value. I think we are not as flighty as you think. We're very loyal to brands that we really feel like have value, that we have an affinity with, and I think it's building that value. You know, I mean, in print, don't forget that £5 feels like quite a lot for us, or I don't know how many dollars that is, but if we're going to buy a magazine, we want to make sure that it's we get the return on investment. And, you know, I think value comes to, you know, if we're going to sign up to receive emails or whatever it be, then we don't necessarily want, you know, we want it to have value. Yeah, we want to have an affinity with that brand, and that's when we might become flighty if it changes. So I think just having a real, sort of really understanding and sort of reaching out to your audience and trying to understand them, I think.
Makes absolute sense. Yeah. Okay, we're at time, so if I can ask you briefly, when you get back home and someone says, what did you get out of that trip to Toronto? What are you going to say?
The biggest takeaway I've seen is the importance of storytelling, and it's been great to witness other magazines talk about how they've held true to their values of that and seen success through it, so going to keep on with that.
Laura?
Yeah, I think that it's twofold for me. One is that everyone has this very encouraging notion that the brand is still key and that print still works, and everyone's very proud of that. So that's very encouraging, and that really resonated with me. On the other hand, I think that what National Geographic shared this morning was really exciting. I think that Nat Geo One is a very compelling product platform, and I think that's something that we could all very well be moving in the direction of. So that was very innovative.
And Francesca?
Yeah, I think two things for me stand out. I think it's been fantastic to kind of listen to all the stories and experience of other brands. I was fascinated to hear about Flow magazine yesterday, and just thinking, wow, someone's really just decided to take a punt on the fact that people still love print, and they've made it something else, and I'm absolutely going to go and buy that now. And I think the other thing is just, I think it's just this wealth of understanding of what needs to happen, and the kind of willingness to evolve, I think sends a lot of hope to kind of our generation, that we will be able to have an impact and that people are listening to us, and that we can kind of, some of these ideas that are just in your head can maybe actually become real things.
That's a great note on which to end. Can I ask you please to thank FIPP's Rising Stars? Thank you.